Mayor, members of the council, the meeting is now being live streamed.
Thank you. The meeting will now reconvene at 6:13 p.m. City Attorney, please provide the closed session report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City Council is now back in open session, having met in closed session to discuss the item listed on the agenda. Staff provided a report for the item, but no reportable action was taken. This concludes my report. Thank you.
And if there's no objection by the City Council, I will now adjourn the closed session City Council meeting at 6:13 p.m. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 23rd, 2026, 6 p.m. regular joint meeting of the Bell Garden City Council and successor agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order at 6:13 p.m. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. If any members should have a conflict of interest, please announce any item you are recusing yourself from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Tonight's invocation will be given by Pastor Leal, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Cameron Vargas, Girl Scout Troop 2543.
Good evening, Mayor and all the councilmen and the councilwomen, the staff, our chief. I'm so blessed to be here. I haven't been here for a few months. I've been so busy, but I'm so glad to see each one of you. And I just want you to remind you that there's a church that prays for each one of you because you're our leaders. And the Bible says we should pray for our leaders. And I also greet everybody else is here. Thank you for being here. As I was thinking about tonight, the Lord led me into a scripture before we prayed, and it's found in the 3rd chapter of Proverbs. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lead not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. In a time of knowledge, many people are leaning on their knowledge, but at the end, we can fail, but the Lord says that we should trust on him and lean on his knowledge. So if you can please come to your feet and let us bow our heads and remember that as we pray, we come into the presence of God. Father, I want to thank you for all our leaders, our councilmen, our mayor, our chief, all the staff that makes the city work. Thank you for the work that they do. Thank you because they care for our city. And Father, we want to put in your hands this meeting. May you guide him with much wisdom and grace, and may your hand be upon this meeting. Father, we give it to you, and we ask this in the precious name of Jesus. Can we say amen? Thank you.
Please stay standing. Face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated.
City Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call of the members of the City Council?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the council successor agency, Barcena will be excused absent unless there are any objections. Councilmember Chavez.
Present.
Councilwoman Sanchez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Guillen.
Present.
And Mayor De La Rosa.
Present. We will now move to presentations. City Manager, please announce the presentations.
Thank you, Mayor De La Rosa. The first item we have tonight for presentations is a certificate of recognition for Coffee Cats. If the Coffee Cats representative could please come up to the podium.
Hi, welcome. May we have your name, please? Michael,
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you for being here. Today we have this recognition here honoring Coffee Cats, so I'll go ahead and read it. It states, the Bell Garden City Council is honored to recognize Coffee Cats. We extend our heartfelt congratulations and a warm welcome to the city of Bell Gardens. You are already becoming a beloved local favorite for your delicious coffees, pastries, and bites. We wish you continued success, growth, prosperity for many years to come. Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for choosing Bell Gardens to initiate, Coffee Cats. I've seen it multiple times on my way to the freeway, and we're very excited. I'm still yet to go and try out what it has to offer. But if you could please tell us what would be something you would recommend to the audience and everyone watching.
So right now, we're actually still going through a soft opening. So we're still kind of trying to get our life together there, as well as we're all new to, staff is all new. They're going through training right now. That's why our hours are limited right now. So hours are 9 right now till 4 p.m., which is late for a coffee shop, but that's just due to the amount of staff we have. We can't make them work 14 hours a day or anything like that. So we are slowly letting the business generate income so that we can go ahead and hire more staff. And then we'll be open earlier at 7 a.m. for you guys. I think the one thing that most customers are ordering right now is probably our horchata latte is what most customers are coming in for.
So the
Yeah.
horchata latte.
The horchata latte, iced horchata
Exciting.
latte, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much and congratulations on your opening. Please keep us posted when the official
Yes.
hard launch comes by.
We
And
will.
yes, and
Thank,
yeah, we'll coordinate and we'll spread the word.
thank you so much.
Yes, and just
Happy
hang
to
on.
be here.
Thank you so much. And just hang on tight. We have our council members too who might have some words as well. Thank you. Sir.
Like it was said, thank you for choosing Bell Gardens. I think for me, it's really important to have small coffee shops. I really love coffee and enjoy it. I have yet to be able to go to your shop because of the hours, but my husband went and I was really jealous because he's like, it's so good, you have to try it. And I'm like, yes, I want to. So I'm already hearing a lot of positive buzz and I wish him nothing but great success.
There for everyone. We try to speak to everyone that comes in. It does get a little difficult when we start getting really busy. We want everyone to feel welcome. We want it to be community driven. We want everyone to feel like they have a place to walk at, during the day for a break, stuff like that. I feel that Bell Gardens doesn't have that sense of a coffee shop and stuff, but now it does. So I mean, little by little, we're only going to get better. So any feedback, we're open to it, any positive feedback. But just to let people know that we're soft opening, we're trying to get it together. We want to be better and we want to be perfect for Bell Gardens, which I think we're on the right path and it will happen. Yeah.
Again, welcome. And may I ask, do you have matcha?
We do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that'll be a favorite.
Yes, we do have matcha. We are working on our matchas right now. We have a strawberry matcha. We have a blueberry matcha. We have a honey lavender matcha. Vanilla matcha that we're still kind of working on. The thing with matcha is it's such a different taste notes for different customers. So sometimes people want it a little grassier, some people want it a little bit more on the sweeter side. We're trying to find that balance, and that's what we're working on through this soft opening as well. We want to get what majority of customers like best. We can't please absolutely everyone, but we want to please the bigger majority of customers and what they're asking for.
Well, I'm excited to try. And then for those that are watching, if you can give us your address so we can.
Address is 6212 Gage Avenue, Bell Gardens. Yes.
Thank you for opening your business in our community. Can you tell us about how that name came about?
Copycat?
Yeah.
So Coffee Cats.
At first, I thought that we had like real cats there. And
no,
just
that'd be really hard to pass with health department, unfortunately.
if you need
it
help
does
with
happen.
that.
It does happen, but Coffee Cats again for the community. Coffee Cats is for I guess older generation coming back to the younger generation. Basically, cats is slang name for a group of people. So we're just all a couple copycats, which means when you guys are there, you guys are the coffee cats. You are a bunch of cats that love coffee. So slang word, if you Google it, slang word for cats is actually a group of people. Comes from jazz, comes from slang word that people used to use in the past, but it just means a group of people, and coffee cats just is a couple cats that like coffee. Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess the follow up is why Bell Gardens?
Bell Gardens, I have family here in Bell Gardens. And it was a location that I liked. I live pretty close to Bell Gardens. I grew up in Downey, So I just felt that this part of the city didn't have that, and we wanted to bring it here. We have a bunch of family that does live in Bell Gardens, so my girlfriend more part of Bell Gardens than I was, so I've always followed her, so that brought me to Bell Gardens. Yeah.
That's how we roll. We have to follow our
Yeah,
girlfriend,
follow,
right?
yep.
Yes, yes. Telling you. So they have the best ideas. They're
Yeah.
the better halves. So again, just congratulations. I'm extremely proud to have you be here in our city. Know that your city is behind you. We want to see you succeed. There is a lot of competition, we know, within the coffee realm. We've had a lot of small, sort of, within home startup businesses, right? And it's interesting to see it all come through. And I mean, for your business to be the first one officially to kind of have its own doors open and to be an established business with the city, it means so much, right? What I would ask or what I would direct to city staff is just, as we think about events coming forward, to see if we can build that partnership, right?
Yeah.
Have you come out, serve your product to our community, whether that be the seniors that are some of our senior center events or Spring Festival that we're actually going to have this Saturday, right? See how we can get your business to be there in a canopy showing off your coffee and your product, right? Seeing as you're an established, formal business here in the city. So ideally, I'd love to see that. And, just again, congratulations. And if you ever need anything from the city, know that we're all here to support you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Congrats.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congrats, and Bell Gardens has your back. Can't wait till we all become coffee cats. Yeah, but let's come forward and let's take a photo together as you receive the certificate. City Manager, will you please announce the next presentation item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor De La Rosa. The next presentation is from Athens. Athens provides residential waste haul, trash hauling services to the city of Bell Gardens and also commercial services as well. Vicky's here to provide a presentation on SB 1383 organic recycling. Thank you, Mayor.
Lovely. Good evening, everyone. Mayor, Council, Vicky Martinez Muela, representing Athens Services. Stopping by tonight just to provide a little bit of information in regards to updated state solid waste regulations, including diversion requirements, Assembly Bill 939 and Senate Bill 1383. To increase sustainability and manage the amount of recoverable items going into our landfills, the state of California has continued to pass legislation that regulates the solid waste industry. Recoverable, meaning recyclables, including plastics and cardboard, and organics, including food scraps and green waste. In 1989, AB 939 was implemented, which required solid waste haulers to divert at least 50% of recoverable items from the landfills. Yet, as landfills continued to fill quickly, and there was contamination in those landfills, including hazardous methane emissions, the state legislators increased their oversight and mandates with Senate Bill 1383, which includes mandatory compliance in organics and recycling diversion and programs to support food recovery. Let's talk a little bit more about SB 1383. SB 1383 targets the reduction of methane emissions in our landfills. This was called California's short-lived climate pollutant reduction law, but it was actually very comprehensive with regards to all of the actions that the state is now asking for solid waste haulers to put into practice. So not only does it mean that we have rules and regulations that we need to follow, it also means that all of our customers, residential and businesses, need to have organic waste disposal. Since 2022, the City of Bell Gardens has had green organics carts available to support organics waste recycling services. Go ahead and take a look. I mentioned that there was a comprehensive look that SB 1383 ensures that we do more than just have a green cart available. We have a collection program, contamination monitoring. We do waste assessments, outreach and education, and procurement. With CalRecycle, the compliance division created to support this mission of diverting recyclables from landfills, jurisdictions were required to adopt an ordinance mandating organic service for all, including inspection and enforcement mechanisms. As we continue to service in Bell Gardens, we continue with all of the programs of SB 1383, which leads us to this. If you notice, SB 1383 has eliminated the current two-stream mixed waste program. It's no longer compliant with state laws, which means that here in the City of Bell Gardens, we need to move to a three-stream program. What does that mean? It means that standard service for all customers will include 3 separate containers, one for trash, one for recycle, and one for organics. We also included just a picture so that those of you who may live or be in a commercial or multifamily area, you will see the bigger bins for trash, but all multifamily or commercial areas also should have a recycling and an organics cart moving forward. So, where does this lead us? It means that we will now, Athens Services, will be working actively with Public Works to start to develop a plan to outreach and roll this program out. We're creating an outreach program to support a transition. And I wanted to put this on, we are looking actively for events that Athens Services can participate in. So if there is something coming up on your radar that we can be active participants in providing education at those events, please give us a call and let us know. We want to talk to as many residents as possible to make sure that everyone knows what goes where. So recognizing trash, recyclables, and organics each have a separate source and an area for collection. This will be really important moving us forward. This is just the beginning of our conversations. We look forward to continuing to provide the best level of service to all of the residents here in the City of Bell Gardens. Mayor, Council, I just thank you very much for allowing me the time to present briefly on the updated regulations that we as trash haulers are making the moves to ensure that we're all moving forward in sustainability and in best practice. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Happy to take any questions if you'd like. Otherwise, I'll see you all soon. In fact, probably this weekend at your Spring Festival. Any questions, Mayor?
Yes, is there a specific timeline for us to implement well, to be in compliance of SB 1383? Is there a timeline associated to that, or?
We'd like to be fully uploaded and ready to go by the end of the year, but there are several details to still iron out with Public Works staff. So there is going to, I don't have a designated timeline for you, but we are actively in discussions on what this is going to be looking like for Bell Gardens. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To that, Mayor, Council, have an awesome evening, a great council meeting, and we'll see you soon. Happy spring, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Vicky. City Manager, will you please announce the next presentation?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor De La Rosa. We're also going to have a proclamation for Donate Life Month. For representative, please come to the podium.
Sí. Hola, bienvenida.
Sí, mi nombre es Eva, yo soy embajadora de One Legacy por más de 23 años. Nosotros sabemos que somos prueba de que la donación de órganos salva vidas.
We are proof that organ donation saves lives. Our son died at 6 years old and saved 4 lives, and one is still alive, the one with the liver. The thing is that one person who dies can save 8 lives and up to 65 with tissue donation. Es que there are wait lists of hundreds of people for livers, up to 1,583 corneas and 183,000 tissues from skin, cartilage, bones, corneas. The first time that a bladder transplant was done, when someone passes away, you don't need to do anything, but you can give quality of life to other people. And we all think it's not going to happen to us, but many of us have, the majority of us have relatives who have high blood pressure, whatever, and if they don't take their medicine, they're going to be on the list. The numbers that I just gave you are just us here in Southern California, the 7 counties covered by One Legacy. And we are volunteers, and we go to any community we can to spread the word. It's a little hard for me because I have to tell the story of my son. And even though it's been a lot of years now, it still hurts, but I thank you all for the opportunity to be here. This proclamation that we have the honor of receiving today is for a walk in honor of those who have passed away. And this will be posted at the walk. And we also invite you all to participate in the walk. It will start at the DMV here in Bell Gardens. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next year. No, thank you. We admire your strength so much. Your baby is
admiro
a
mucho
little
su
angel and has
determinación
saved so
y-
many lives,
y la luz
and
que
I
trae.
admire your strength
Muchas gracias.
and the light you carry. Thank you very much.
Gracias por su testimonio
Thank
y
you for
qué
your
bonito que su hijo
testimony
alcanzó a
and
salvar tanta vida
how
aquí que está
beautiful
separada.
that your son
Gracias.
was able to save so many lives, and the fact that you are still standing here in front of us. Thank you. On my part, the same thing. Thank you for sharing your story. I also thank you for the comment that people think it's not going to happen to me. Oh, these decisions won't affect me. But if you think about later, you're right. We all have to take care of ourselves so that even once we're not in this world any longer, hopefully we can save other lives. Your son is a testimony to that. And thank you very much for sharing your life story with the council. And we hope that we can support you not just here, but if there are any other ways that we can. Well, I would appreciate that when you have large events that we could set up a table, because the more people hear about this is the better. And organ donation is a personal decision that everyone has to make, but we want to educate people about it. Thank you for bringing the information and for sharing that pain that you have, but the joy that you brought to other people, that he was able to save 6 lives. So thank you for both of those.
Muchas gracias, Eva. Y
Thank you very much,
con todo
Eva.
respeto y admiración, aquí le tenemos una
And
proclamación.
so
Se la
much
voy a leer.
respect
Es en inglés y dice
and
así.
admiration. I'm going to
The
read this
in honor of
proclamation.
National Donate Life Month. Whereas organ, eye, tissue, marrow, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 103,000 individuals nationwide and more than 23,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and on average 17 people die each day while waiting. And whereas the need for donated organs is specifically urgent in Hispanics, Latino, and African American communities. And whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. And whereas donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of more than 75 others. And whereas deceased organ donors saved more than 47,000 lives last year. And whereas any person can register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, regardless of age or medical conditions. And whereas being a registered donor does not impact the quality of life-saving medical care a person receives in an emergency. And whereas California residents can sign up with Donate Life California Donor Registry online at any time by visiting www.donatelifecalifornia.org, or for Spanish speakers, www.donevidacalifornia.org. And whereas California residents can sign up to be an organ, eye, tissue donor when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. And whereas California residents interested in saving a life through living kidney donation may visit www.livingdonationcalifornia.org. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Miguel de la Rosa, Mayor for the City of Bell Gardens, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April as DMV/Donate a Life Month in the City of Bell Gardens, and encourage all Californians to check yes online when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card at DMV. Proclaimed on this 23rd day of March 2026, signed by myself along with the rest of the City Council. Muchas gracias, Eva, de todo corazón. Y ahorita en un momento hay que pasar hacia enfrente y hay que tomarnos una foto mientras recibe la proclamación. We will now begin with item 6.1 at this time. I will open public hearing at 6:44 p.m. City Manager, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor De La Rosa. This item is a consideration of adoption of a resolution essentially approving the Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan and initial study mitigated negative declaration with the mitigation monitoring report program. The Climate Action Plan is something that's been developed approximately over the last 18 to 24 months. We'll turn it over to our Community Development Director, Manuel Acosta, to provide more information and a presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager, and good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Today, we're going to have a brief presentation on this item. Our Associate Planner, Adrian Flores, will provide you an update, and we also have our consultant that assists us through this project, also here to give you a quick their presentation, as well as our City Planner, Alfonso Hernandez, will also assist. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and members of the public. Today, for the record, my name is Adrian Flores. I'm the Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division. Today, we will present to you the Climate Action Plan and Initial Study Mitigated Negative Declaration. This was prepared by staff and our consultants with Blue Stripe Environmental and Impact Sciences. Today is staff's recommendation that City Council find the initial study mitigated negative declaration with the mitigated monitoring reporting program was prepared in accordance with and pursuant to the CEQA, and adopt the resolution approving the new Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan and certify a mitigated negative declaration with the mitigation monitoring reporting program. Allow me to provide you some background on the project. On December 11th, 2023, Bell Gardens City Council adopted a resolution authorizing acceptance of a Caltrans grant for climate adaptation planning in the amount of $211,175. And this grant was to support projects that identify transportation-related climate vulnerabilities and advance coordinated transportation, housing, and land use planning. On April 25th, staff released a Bell Gardens RFP seeking consultant services to prepare a comprehensive climate action plan and to identify strategies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Subsequently, on July 22nd, City Council adopted a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Blue Stripe Environmental in preparation for the Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan. This was decided based on their experience, qualifications, cost, and demonstrated ability to deliver an actionable, equity-driven plan with robust stakeholder engagement. And lastly, on February 18th, the Bell Gardens Planning Commission recommended to the City Council approval of the Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan. Now, the city and the region are experiencing significant climate change impacts that are projected to intensify by 2045. Particularly due to its dense urban form, limited green space, and high proportion to vulnerable residents. Some of the key risks include a substantial increase in extreme heat days, amplified by the urban heat island effect, worsening air qualities from regional wildfire smoke, increased flooding from more intense storm events, and increased threats to water supply reliability and affordability from drought and contamination. Now, the Climate Action Plan will be implemented with long-term climate objectives consistent with California's statewide greenhouse gas reduction targets, with the goal of reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions no later than 2045, which was established under the Executive Order B55 and Senate Bill 100. Now, allow me to present you with our consultant project team with Blue Stripe Environmental, Ana Bunkava, and as well as Rich Swanson with Blue Stripe Environmental, who will be providing you a quick overview of our Climate Action Plan.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, council members, staff, and the public. My name is Ana Bugankova. I'm from Blue Stripe Environmental. And before we begin today's presentation, I'd like to thank the project team, Alfonso and Adrian, for supporting us throughout this project, sharing their knowledge and data with us, introducing us to the members of the public and internal staff, and supporting this project. Without their support and collaboration, this project would not have been possible. So thank you. So I would like to introduce our team. Myself, Anna Bugankova from Blue Strike Environmental. I'm here today with Rich Swanson, also from Blue Strike. We also have Saul Shepard, who is joining us online and will also be presenting tonight. And Impact Sciences team, Brad Pomeroy and Amber Williams, who are also on the call today. So for today's agenda, we will be covering project goals, what this climate action plan is about and what it's trying to achieve. We're going to be covering results of greenhouse gas emissions inventory, talk about community and stakeholder engagement efforts and the results of those efforts, talk about strategies overview, implementation plan, and Impact Sciences team is going to cover California Environmental Quality Act overview. So to begin, about project goals, one of the goals for this project was evaluating greenhouse gas emissions inventory from both your entire community and municipal operations. We'll be talking about that in detail in the next couple of slides. And we use this information to establish clear greenhouse gas reduction goals and measures, as well as resilience measures and policy recommendations as a part of this plan. This plan also aims to mitigate climate change impacts and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the part of this plan was meaningful collaboration with your community, with staff members, cities, businesses, and local organizations. Also, this plan clearly aligned the climate action plan efforts with existing efforts for the city of Bell Gardens, as well as regional and state level initiatives. And finally, the main goal of this plan is designing a comprehensive implementation plan outlining every step that needs to be taken to implement this initiative, such as implementation costs, funding sources, lead departments. And our goal for this project also is to help the city to be able to obtain future funding to fund the initiatives that are part of this plan. I apologize if I missed the previous slide here, but on this slide, you can see the chapter's overview of the climate action plan to make it a little bit easier for you to follow along. You can see the plan is broken down in a couple of sections here, which is executive summary and introduction, greenhouse gas emissions analysis, community engagement chapter, climate action plan roadmap, which is where you can find sector-specific goals, strategies, and actions, and implementation reporting chapter, as well as appendices that dive into various aspects of this plan in more detail. And with that, I will pass it to my colleague Sol to go over the greenhouse gas emission results.
Thank you, Anna. So a major accomplishment of the CAP was creating a comprehensive greenhouse gas inventory for community and municipal operations. This figure that you can see shows results of the 2023 Community Greenhouse Gas Inventory, a snapshot of where emissions are coming from across the residents and workers of Bell Gardens. This is the first time an inventory was created for the city. Developing it required establishing new data connections with utilities and departments and working through reporting thresholds and data alignment challenges. Many thanks go out to the utility departments and city staff who helped develop this inventory. Transportation reflects the majority of emissions at around 51%, where electricity and natural gas follow at 25% and 14% respectively. Solid waste, potable water, wastewater, and fugitive emissions round out the rest of the emissions. This figure reflects a minor update from the previous draft of the CAP, incorporating a recently uncovered non-residential electricity category consisting of previously unreported industrial emissions that improved alignment with reported data and a public comment. We also analyzed emissions from local government or municipal operations, which you can see on the next slide. So this slide shows the results of the 2023 Local Governments Operations Greenhouse Gas Inventory, which are emissions from all city operations. While the community inventory includes this data as a subset, this inventory focuses specifically on sources that the city directly controls, such as vehicle fleet, buildings and facilities, streetlights, water use, waste, and employee commute. As you can see, the largest source is the city's vehicle fleet at 29%, followed by employee commuting at 24%, with buildings and facilities at 20%. And then transit fleet, and then smaller contributions from waste, streetlights, and water and wastewater. We developed this inventory using utility data from municipal buildings, fuel consumption records for city and transit fleets, solid waste data, and then commute assumptions. These greenhouse gas emission baselines help inform city emission reduction targets and analysis, as shown on the next slide. Another of the key accomplishments of our CAP is the commitment to meeting California's statewide greenhouse gas reduction targets under Executive Order B55 and Senate Bill 100. The state has set a goal of reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions no later than 2045, and our CAP is built around meeting that timeline. If you look at the dashed line on this chart, you can see our business as usual forecast. This represents what happens if we don't act. And as you can see, community emissions would not reach the state's targets on their own, even accounting for existing policies like utility scale decarbonization and our current vehicle electrification trends. From there, we calculated an emission reduction pathway representing our most ambitious and achievable scenario. To do that, we used established guidance from CAPCOA, which provides a standardized methodology handbook specifically designed for local governments and communities working on climate action. With those targets in hand, we turned to the community. Residents and stakeholders helped us evaluate which strategies made sense for this city, and that input shaped the priorities, which Anna will talk about on the next slide. Thank you.
So a big part of this plan was also community and stakeholder engagement efforts. And on the slide, you can see overview of some of the activities that we've conducted as a part of this project, which included our earlier in-person visit in January 2025. During that visit, we met with the members of your staff and public, conducted in-person community meeting, and attended the yard sale. We also conducted virtual public meeting. And I want to emphasize that during both of those meetings, we had a Spanish-speaking translator who was able to translate our content and also translate and answer any questions and assist us in that. We wanted to make sure that this plan is inclusive of both English and Spanish-speaking community members. We also had series of conversations and meetings with members of the steering committee and the planning commission and focus groups that you can see listed on this page, and conducted a community survey and got 85 responses from English speakers and 18 responses from your Spanish-speaking community members. In addition to that, at the end of the completion of the plan, we had a 30-day public comment period where members of the public and various committees had a chance to comment on the plan and ask us questions as it relates to the content of the plan. And we wanted to highlight a couple of themes that came up during the engagement efforts, specifically with the community. And one of our priorities for both English and Spanish-speaking residents was urban greening, overall expanding parks and green spaces. Second was climate adaptation, such as emergency preparedness, cooling centers, expanding operating hours of the cooling centers, and overall adaptation education. Third is community resilience, is residents prioritized health and social programs, including climate education and awareness. So this theme came up a lot during our engagement efforts and included throughout these highlights. Fourth one is economic development, supporting our local businesses and clean energy job creation and overall job creation with the initiatives that we proposed to this plan and trying to promote local hiring and local workforce development. And finally, equity and affordability, addressing frontline communities' needs such as utility affordability and housing resilience for your residents. So next stage is strategy development. We wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what goes into strategy development and what went into strategy development as a part of this plan. Is first, all of the engagement activities that we've conducted with your staff, with community members, with the steering committee, and with the planning commission, including in-person visit, the city tours, overviewing and reviewing your existing plans and initiatives for the city of Bell Gardens, but also for the county and state levels to make sure that we're following along with the initiatives that are proposed on the larger scale. We also conducted an overview of your neighboring communities and understood what these communities are doing and what actions and goals they're setting for themselves. We also reviewed the list of best practices and regional peers and national climate action leaders. When the strategies were developed for this climate action plan, we conducted a strategy voting exercise with department heads and staff to allow to allow them to provide feedback on the strategies and actions that were offered in this plan. And finally, we presented the plan to the steering committee and to the planning commission, and also had a 30-day public review period and feedback was integrated into this plan after the public review period was over. And now we wanted to go specifically into the focus areas that were identified as a part of this plan. First is energy and buildings, transportation and mobility, resource conservation, green community, and resilience and adaptation. So you will see that the plan and the strategies in the plan are organized by these focus areas. And before we go into the overview of those focus areas, we wanted to emphasize that some of the goals, for example, for greenhouse gas emission reductions that we set in here, is a combined and joint effort with the state level initiatives too. So this is not, everything is not solely on the Bell Gardens. This is in combination of the city level efforts, county level efforts, and the state level efforts to help with greenhouse gas emission reductions and other initiatives. And this climate action plan is designed to be a living document because we realize there may be updates and changes in policies, in availability of funding opportunities, maybe advancement in technologies. So we're keeping that in mind, introducing this plan and how we're designing these technologies and what can vary down the road in the implementation of this plan. And first category that we're covering here is energy and buildings. And I'm not sure if you have a plan available in front of you, but we also, in each slide going forward, provide you with pages where you can follow along if necessary. So here you can see the energy and buildings focus areas, and we're introducing here a sample goal, a strategy, and actions underneath this initiative. So this is just an example. Each focus area will have more of these strategies and actions. So the way it's organized, there are a couple of goals underneath each focus areas, specific strategies associated with these goals, and specific actions that can be done to reach this strategy and then to reach this particular goal. So here you see an example of building a citywide battery microgrid for cooling centers and critical facilities. And a sample strategy that we have here is a cooling center microgrid with actions that highlight retrofitting existing centers with rooftop solar and battery storage, ensuring that every present and future cooling site can operate during grid outages and require a 72-hour island mode at cooling centers. And we know there are already cooling centers in Bell Gardens, so the strategy is more focused on improving the performance of these cooling centers. And below you can see some of the co-benefits also highlighted, such as greenhouse gas reductions, clean energy initiatives, and cost reductions. Next one is transportation and mobility. This focus area is also organized just like the previous one with high-level goals, strategies, and actions embedded under each strategy. And the sample goal that we are seeing here is reducing emissions from transportation by advancing zero-emission transportation system. And you can follow the strategies along in this section in pages 78 and 84. And some of the actions that are proposed here is designing a phased fleet plan for the town trolley transition to zero-emission alternatives, seeking to prioritize contracting with third party that has zero-emission fleet, and applying for state and federal grants for EV transition and charging infrastructure. And I also want to highlight that some of these initiatives are either already in progress or planned, such as recent updates with the grant for EV infrastructure feasibility study. And so you can see here some of the associated co-benefits too, such as emission reductions, resource conservation, economic development, and green job creation. And with that, I'll pass it to my colleague Rich to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Anna, and good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Just before I finish up this presentation here, I just also want to say a deep appreciation. I was so impressed with your city staff, particularly Alfonso and Adrian, whom we worked with very closely. They just did so much work on this plan, and their dedication was really impressive. So thank you both. Really appreciate it. Under this category of resource conservation, you can see our sample goal here. This is one of the goals that resides in this particular category. In this case, it's reducing per capita water use, and then it has some targets there with a baseline of 2020, with a target of 2035, and some different efforts. The strategy in this case is to improve water use efficiency in buildings, and then you can see some action steps there, retrofitting municipal buildings. So interestingly, this one in particular starts with municipal operations actions, moves towards the encouragement of new construction and major remodels across the city, and then an education campaign as well that might come later. The next category is green community, and here the goal is land use for community benefit and climate resilience, so maximizing available land for those two purposes. You can see there a strategy, which is remediation and reactivation of either contaminated or sometimes underutilized lands for more productive opportunities, and then the action steps that go along with that particular strategy to move that along to fruition. And then our final category here is resilience and adaptation. This has to do with resilience within city infrastructure and allowing for resilience across the community. In this particular case, the sample goal there is for the enhancement of Bell Garden's built environment to better withstand climate impacts by investing in resilient housing infrastructure and disaster mitigation measures. The strategy underneath there is some training and resource allocation. You can see the actions, creating educational programs for city residents, offering quarterly community emergency response team and climate resilience workshops, and then also embedded preparedness into the curriculum of all K through 12 schools. So these would be some examples of some actions that would move that along. One of the features of this overall climate action plan is an implementation plan. And so I wanted to highlight just what that looks like here in the plan. I wanted to draw your attention, if I could, to that top banner of the table. You can see that all these different strategies and actions have a focus area that is, we just walked through the 5 different focus areas. The actions themselves, a candidate lead department, a very high level cost estimate, a target year for starting, an implementation timeline that shows the approximate duration for each one, and then the approximate GHG reductions wherever there was an opportunity to calculate what some of these actions would reduce in terms of GHG mitigation. We did that in the plan. One other feature of the plan here is the financing, funding, monitoring, and reporting tables. And so once again, you see focus areas, you see a list of the strategies. These have key performance indicators. So these are ways in which you might measure progress along the way, tools and methods that are available for staff who are tracking this, and then a series of funding sources. So for each strategy, we've tried to make available through research a series of funding opportunities that can pay for those particular strategies. The final report came together. We hope you think it's very aesthetically pleasing. It's a very public-facing report with a lot of graphics and, you know, a lot of information in there, of course, but the average reader can come find what is climate change, what are these mitigation efforts, why are they important, what's sort of the baseline emissions and so forth. And so we hope you have an opportunity to look through that report and discover all of the different findings that are there. As mentioned, we also went through, oops, sorry about that. Here's the screen for that particular slide. We also went through a review for CEQA, and I want to turn things over to our colleague Amber for a brief discussion on the impact science role here.
Thank you, Rich. I'll take this one. My name is Brett Pomeroy. Good evening, everyone. I'm an associate principal with Impact Sciences, and we are the environmental consultant that supported the city and the Blue Strike team associated with environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, also referred to as CEQA. The Climate Action Plan meets the definition for a discretionary project that is subject to review under CEQA. To that end, the city, acting as lead agency, prepared and published a draft initial study mitigated negative declaration, also referred to as an ISMND, on December 23rd, 2025. And the public comment period ran through January 23rd, 2026. We received a total of 3 comment letters during the comment period, one from the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans District 7, one from LA County Sanitation Districts, and one from the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians, Kiz Nation. We prepared written responses to these comments and a final mitigation monitoring and reporting program, which is included as Exhibit 4, I believe, to this agenda item. As demonstrated therein, none of the comments received on the ISMND provide substantial evidence or a fair argument indicating that additional CEQA review is warranted or that the project could result in significant environmental effects. Next slide, please. Another important component related to the California Environmental Quality Act is that if this plan is approved and if the MND is adopted by the city, the plan can be used to streamline the GHG analysis for future plans and projects undergoing their own CEQA review pursuant to CEQA section 15183.5 of the state CEQA guidelines. And what this means is that future discretionary plans and projects that can demonstrate consistency with applicable strategies and actions identified in the Climate Action Plan, those future projects may be able to determine that impacts related to GHG emissions could be less than significant at the project level. And with that, I believe I pass it back to city staff.
So, Adrian Flores, Associate Planner here again. So for the record, there was a public review period for the draft Climate Action Plan, which was from December 23rd, 2025 to January 23rd, 2026. Within that period, we received 2 public comments. And the first public comment was provided by Laura Cortez with East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice. Their letter expressed overall support of the document while providing questions and suggestions for clarification and improvement. Comments focused on defining technical terms, recommending community engagement for bicycle lane planning, and drought-tolerant parkway landscaping. The second public comment was provided by Brittany Rivas with Communities for a Better Environment. Their letter acknowledged the city's efforts and offers comments intended to further strengthen the Climate Action Plan with focus on environmental justice and public health considerations. Comments focused on identifying unhoused communities, renter protections, and natural resource protection. The city reviewed and considered all comments received on the Climate Action Plan and made revisions where appropriate. Based on this input, draft Climate Action Plan was updated in an effort to clarify policies and strengthen implementation. And Ana Bucancova with Blue Strike Environmental would go ahead and provide us with an example of how one of the comments was addressed in the document.
Thank you, Adrian. Here's just one of the examples of the comments that we've received during the public review period. And one comment asked us to clarify what 72-hour island mode at cooling center would require. So to address this revision, we added a footnote with a definition of what island mode means to be able to make it clear to the plan readers what we mean here by 72-hour island mode. So this is just an example of a couple of comments that we addressed after the public comment period. So And with that, I will pass it back to.
Thank you. So again, it is staff's recommendation today that City Council find the initial study of mitigated negative declaration was prepared in accordance and pursuant to CEQA, concluding less than significant impacts would occur. And finally, adopt a resolution approving the new Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan and certifying a mitigated negative declaration with the Mitigation Monitoring Reporting Program. This concludes our presentation. The consultants, along with city staff and city attorney, are available for any questions. Thank you, City Council.
First off, thank you so much for such a thorough report, and also shout out to Adrian and Alfonso for taking part of this report as well. One thing that stood out to me was urban greening expansion. That really resonated with me because the focus is to leverage land for the use of community benefit and climate resilience. And I connected that with a presentation we had earlier last year, late last year, with an elementary class that did a study, and they found that Bell Gardens is pretty deficient in terms of like trees and green spaces. So it's pretty awesome to see that reflected on the document, and also great news since last week the city received a grant of $500,000 to look into the expansion of creating a park on Clara, which is a park and trail, and I think that's going to be a great amenity that fulfills this mission and this goal in the report. And that is just a step forward for the city. And yeah, overall, just a comment. Thank you all so much for putting all of this together, and also setting up those actions, right, that we can take either immediately or in the foreseeable future. So thank you so much. And I will also yield some time for my colleagues to express their comments or questions.
Can you address what was the time frame for this plan to be developed again? Can you tell me more or less?
Sure, yeah. So this project started in 2024, and it took us about a year and a half to get through to where we are now. The majority of the time was just public review comment period. So it was a lot of just waiting games, just accepting comments through the period. So there's a good time where we were completed, but we're just waiting for comments. But yeah, the project itself started in 2024, so about a year and a half.
And you said that there were several outreach to the community. I know that there was some translation, bilingual. You discussed that there was about 85 responses you got in English, 18 in Spanish. Was that based on going out to community events and getting feedback from residents?
Yeah, so that was a combination of attending some of the community events as well as creating a flyer. We sent these flyers out to all of the schools in the city, and as well as advertising on social media, and as well as posting it on our daily newspaper. So we tried to try out different type of outlets to get as much attention as we were able to. But those were our ways of trying to get the community engaged.
Yeah, I always want community to engage in it. And although the numbers are okay, like I wish they were higher. So that's why I was asking, what avenues were used for that. Thank you so much for all the hard work that the whole team put together. I really appreciate you guys adding different types of funding sources of how we can get some of this stuff done. So thank you so much for putting that together.
I'll go ahead and jump on and say that I'm really impressed with the climate action plan that was brought forward. I think this is something that, especially for a community like Bell Gardens or really Southeast Los Angeles, I think it's very important that, that we begin to address a lot of the inequities and sort of to the steering committee point, to the letters that were submitted from CBE and East Yards, which, I'm really close to them. That's sort of where I began my career in public service and protesting and going up to government meetings and sort of demanding environmental justice for our region. That, we live next to the LA River, we live next to the rail yard, we live next to the freeway. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And finally, it's documents such as a climate action plan that can begin to address a lot of those inequities. So I'm very happy of the participation. I'm glad to see that a lot of those actors were also part of those committees. I jumped in on some of the public committees as well to just kind of listen in and hear what was what was being discussed. But again, they're doing their part as always, trying to push above and beyond the metrics. I think in the CBE letter that was submitted, they wanted to tie a lot of goals aligned with tenant putting forward tenant protections, right, and kind of connecting it as a whole, as a holistic approach to the community as we begin to implement some of these these achievements that we want. So again, I really appreciate all the work that was done from Blue Strike Environmental, and obviously our incredible staff team. Adrian and Alfonso will always go above and beyond for our residents. So again, thank you so much. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Perfect. Now we will open public participation for this item. City Clerk, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item 6.1. Please state your name for the record before addressing the members of the City Council and successor agency. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through Zoom may request to speak by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We didn't receive any speaker cards, but we did receive 2 written comment cards or 2 written comments, and that was distributed to the full council. And we do have 1 person raising their hand virtually. Zoom ID beginning with Mario, if you would please unmute yourself and you may proceed with your comments. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say to the council members, I encourage you to chase after, whatever available vacant lots are available that can be turned into what they call pocket parks, and really go after developing more parks for your city. In 2016, LA County spent $3 million for a park needs assessment study. And what did they find out from this study? Well, it turns out all of LA County is park deficient. The entirety of LA County is in great need of parks. What I'll do is I'll send you the link for this. I think it was an hour and a half Zoom meeting with the director of LA County, because LA County has its own Department of Parks and Recreation, as does the City of Los Angeles, and the director is Norma Garcia. I forget her last name, but she ran the Zoom meeting, and along with using the City of Baldwin Park as a case study, how LA County partnered up with Baldwin Park to help increase their green space. And it is a big problem for all of LA County that we need more green space. So I encourage you all to make that a priority for your city as well. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Zoom ID beginning with your Zoom, Edwin, if you would please select the microphone icon and you may proceed with your comment.
Hello, good evening. So for the record, Mr. Edwin Gonzalez from the City of Bell. I'm sure we all are cognizant that reducing greenhouse emissions is the most daunting task of our time. In these reports, which detail many of the harmful substances that abound in this particular city, it reaffirms to me that we do have an apparatus that serves as a watchdog for these communities that have traditionally been the most vulnerable, offering some hope that maybe we will divest from fossil fuels in the not too distant future. However, the outlook on actually making that happen is not very promising, if you ask me. With so much effort being put into expansion of electric vehicles, I believe that as we proceed in replacing combustible engine vehicles that rely on gas, we must anticipate that there will be major setbacks for those trying to protect our ecosystem. For one, transnational oil companies are almost untouchable because of the political power that they've acquired. through lobbying and nefarious practices. Then global instability, which intensifies armed conflicts around the world, will destroy the global cooperation needed to confront the climate crisis. I've taken it upon myself to let my community know about all the damage that comes with the extraction of various metals that are needed to produce batteries for EVs. This type of mining obliterates forest, wildlife, and subsequently leads to displacement of communities who will not have access to clean water. As a member of Communities for a Better Environment, I pledge to research and scrutinize any policy that could inflict irreversible damage to Mother Earth. I urge leaders to modify their paradigms on how to divest from fossil fuels. In large urban populations like ours, we shouldn't just focus on reducing greenhouse emissions, because another way to improve the quality of life is reducing our dependency on vehicles. The density in our cities is off the charts, and any comprehensive environmental plan must include reducing vehicle traffic on our streets. Otherwise, you'll have too much noise, lack of visibility, and just more chaos. And subsequently, the overall health of any community is jeopardized. Electric vehicles substituting for gas-powered transportation just doesn't cut it. The real solutions depend on how we
You have 15
interact with.
seconds.
Yeah, dude, I got enough time. The real solutions depend on how we interact with our environment. Also, the infrastructure will not hold up. That's all for now. Thank you so much and good night.
Thank you. That was the last person who raised their hand.
And if there's no objection by the members of the City Council successor agency, I will close public participation for public hearing of item 6.1, as well as close the public hearing at 7:26 p.m. May I have a motion to find that the initial study mitigated negative declaration was prepared in accordance with CEQA and concludes that the project will result in less than significant environmental impacts, and adopt resolution number 2026-31 approving the Bell Gardens Climate Action Plan, CAP, and certifying that the initial study mitigated negative declaration with the mitigation monitoring program. And may I have a second with that? I have a second by Jorge Chavez. And City Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, and thank you. Members of the council and successor agency, Councilmember Chavez,
Aye.
Councilwoman Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Guillen,
Yes.
and Mayor De La Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes for all.
We'll now move to public participation for items not listed on the agenda. Public participation is now open. City Clerk, will you please announce the instructions for public participation?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, subject to an overall 30-minute period. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through Zoom may request to speak by using the raise hand feature and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We did receive one written communication, and that has already been distributed to the full council. We didn't receive any public comment cards, but we do have someone raising their hand virtually. Zoom ID beginning with Mario, if you would please select the microphone icon and proceed with your comment.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say to the council members other than, at the last, again, I'm a resident of Southgate, and at the last city council meeting, we're going to have another one tomorrow, but we already had our mid-year budget report. And the shocking thing about our mid-year budget report for this current fiscal year is that, it's even worse for us. We went from, it turns out we're not in a $9 million financial deficit that we need to crawl out of. No, it's a $10 million financial deficit that my city is in. They spent $2.2 million from general fund reserve just to get us where we are today, council members. We're not even done with this fiscal year. I mean, I don't even know where we're going to be in terms of, in terms of expenditures and how much more they're going to have to bleed out from the general fund. But they already spent 2.2 million from general fund reserves just thus far, just to get us to where we are. And we better get that utility user tax in November. Otherwise, it's going to be RIP Southgate. And the thing I want to say to Ms. Gomez, so I'm using my Samsung tablet, and you know how you can split the screen on your tablet. So on the left side, I'm using the Google Chrome app, and I'm on the city's website. And you can live stream the video on your city's website, and you can adjust the picture to 1080p. It looks pristine. It looks perfect, just like on YouTube. And Ms. Gomez, it does look better on whatever they did on Zoom. The picture quality does look better. But if you can eliminate some of these boxes with the informational stuff, I mean, really, it's just clutter. It just doesn't even look good. If you can make that stuff go away, I'd appreciate it. All righty, I'll end with that.
Okay, thank you. Zoom ID beginning with Edwin, if you would please unmute yourself and you can proceed with your comment.
Good evening. At this time, I would like to express my gratitude for the wonderful presentations that took place at the previous council meeting. Hearing testimony from Prime Store Development and learning more about the impact of the Red Cross in this community gave me great insight as to how Bell Gardens was transformed by these great initiatives. It's powerful testimony hearing from individuals who were instrumental in making all that possible. When my family became residents of Bell, California in the early 80s, Eastern was not what it is today. The casino was there and some other establishments, but it lacked something. It needed to diversify and add other elements that would make it as vibrant as it is today. During that time of Reaganomics, the economic outlook was bleak as the population struggled with high inflation, deindustrialization, and with the great concern that the Cold War would continue to destabilize one continent after another. In spite of all that, the immigrant communities were able to uplift the country and help it recover from all that adversity. The Hispanic communities in Southeast Los Angeles became one of the driving forces that prevented our economies from disintegrating. Throughout the years, all the neighboring communities have benefited from the commercial activity on Eastern Avenue as consumers, as employees. Also, I think the fact that there isn't a lot of crime in that area has only helped its reputation, and hopefully it will remain like that. Several businesses came and went, but overall, the commercial activity is still very robust. As a resident of Bell, I think Bell Gardens is the city that I most rely on. Eastern Avenue is the main conduit of essential services to many residents of my city. The history of Bell is so deeply intertwined with Bell Gardens. I obtained my GED at Fort Park Adult School. In my childhood, I attended an evangelical Baptist church almost every Sunday, just a few blocks from where I'm now standing. Also, the Bell Gardens Library is an invaluable resource that I truly appreciate. Council, it's always great to know more about our communities from those who are part of its social fabric. Let's preserve that wisdom and use it as an essential tool in creating a progressive society. Take care and thank you for listening.
Thank you. That is our last public comment provided.
And if there's no objection by the members of the City Council successor agency, I will now close public participation for non-agenda items. City Clerk, will you please announce the instructions for public participation for items listed on the agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the agenda. Please state your name for the record. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through Zoom may request to speak by using the raise hand feature. and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We didn't receive any written comments or any public comment cards, and we don't have anyone raising their hand virtually.
If there's no objection by the members of the city council, I will now close public participation. Now moving on to the next section, committee updates. Does any member of the council have anything to report?
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to report that last week I was able to attend the National League of Cities out in Washington, D.C. I was able to meet with different congressional representatives, including our very own Congressman Robert Garcia, and along with nearby Congress members, including Congresswoman Linda Sanchez and Congresswoman Nanette Diaz-Barragan. And we also met with both U.S. Senators Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff. The conversations were ongoing in regards to immigration, the impact obviously to our cardroom, and just seeing that we might need some sort of support from the federal government, and overall just concerns with the conditions of the federal government in these times and unjust times as local officials try to navigate them. We did ask about a potential earmark request in regards to our soccer fields here at the sports complex at Ford Park. That project is about, I think, a $5 to $10 million project. Our fields haven't been renovated for quite a while. I think they're about to approach their maintenance cycle. So as a city, that was one of the big ticket items that I went out requesting funds for. So we go in asking for 5-10 million, depending on how appropriations and the overall conditions of the federal government budget is. We might get 10, we might get 5, we might get only 1, right? But the point is that we have to go out and ask, because if we don't ask, we don't get anything. So I'd like to share that, and it was a very productive meeting. And I think on a final note, when I got on the plane, it was 22 degrees outside on a Wednesday, and I got back and it was 92 degrees here. So it was very, very different weather conditions from here and DC. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else in regards to later this week on Friday, there will be a Cal Cities meeting happening out in Costa Mesa. So I serve as the vice chair for the Community and Economic Development Housing Committee. So we're going to be discussing 3 to 4 different bills that Cal Cities will take a position on, that's being recommended by the board. One of them deals with grocery stores. Due to the state's continuous push to put forward housing, it's sort of caused this friction between that and grocery stores, markets, right? So that's one of the concerns. And then another one was in regards to, I believe it was in regards to churches with housing. I don't have the bills numbers from the top of my head, but I'll be sure to report back on the decisions that we end up making from that committee. But with that said, that's all my reports for the committees. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Chavez, for your advocacy and representation. Moving on to the next item, city manager report.
Thanks again, Mayor De La Rosa. Just want to mention on March 16th, Monday, Community Family Services Center hosts another financial literacy workshop. On March 17th, we were officially notified of the $500,000 grant that you mentioned for plan and design of a passive park that would be north of Clara underneath the Edison on the right-of-way. So it's a plan and design grant that could potentially be used for the actual construction of a park project at a later time. This last Saturday, we had our monthly food program at Veterans Park. A mention that the Mexican consulate is still here at the Neighborhood Youth Center until the end of March. March 25th, this Wednesday, the police department will have a neighborhood watch meeting jointly with the LA County Sheriff. This is at Paseo del Rio in Greenwood, since the community there is serviced partially by our police department, and then the county side, the City of Commerce side of it, is serviced by the sheriff. As always, we have our art space this Thursday, 6 p.m. at Veterans Park. We have our art and yard sale this Friday. Just a reminder, it's a new time, 10 a.m., so it starts earlier, which is better with the heat and the coming heat of the summer. On March 28th, that's this Saturday, we have our big Spring and Earth Day Festival event. It's at at Veterans Park from 12 to 3 p.m. So egg hunt, recycled fashion show, butterfly release, food trucks, tree planting, all of it's free. So come out, bring your family if you're listening. March 30th, Monday, that's going to be observed city holiday. City Hall will be closed. Essential services are still continuing to move on. And we keep working in those areas. Friday, April 3rd, it's the Art and Yard Sale and also the free farmers market. So the Art and Yard Sale on April 3rd will have the farmers market. So if you need some food, come by. And then on April 4th, Saturday, we have a pet vaccination clinic. That's 1:30 to 3:30 at Veterans Park. On Saturday, April 11th, the Community Family Services Center is hosting another financial literacy workshop. This one's on managing debt and avoiding mistakes. It's at 10:30 at Ross Hall. And then also want to make a plug for the registration that's currently ongoing for CERT training. That's the Community Emergency Response Team training. This one's completely in Espanol. It starts on Wednesday, April 13th, and basically for 8 weekdays, and somebody would need to participate all 8 weekdays to be certified. But you can go to our app, you can go to our calendar, you can go to PD social media, our social media, to see the flyer and sign up for that program. In addition to the events programs that I'm talking about now, we have multiple items on the consent calendar that are important to all the stakeholders in the city of Bell Gardens. Includes an amended agreement for services related to the final maintenance and reporting of the Ford Park Cistern project. That will include an educational component there that's been discussed at the council in the past. The acceptance of the completion of the security gate at the police department, which has proven its worth in the last year as the gate was purposefully crashed into by somebody that had a problem and seemed to take offense with the police department. An amendment of our city photocopier agreement, and also the awarding of a construction contract for slurry seal improvements. Those are improvements that basically take the old roadway, put a nice new coat of blacktop and new striping over. This is for 20 blocks of city streets and alleyways. So a big improvement there as part of the annual program that the city does. And the final comment I just want to make is our associate planner, Adrian Flores, who's here, gave his final presentation here at the City of Bell Gardens after 7 years being in the Community Development Department. He's moving on to a new position with the City of Buena Park, presumably as a boysenberry and Knott's Berry Farm fan, I'm guessing. We can't offer the boysenberry like they can. So I just want to say thanks to Adrian for all the work. I think Adrian started right around the time I started here as well. So he's a face that I'm used to seeing here at the City of Bell Gardens all these years, and just want to wish him good luck there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Does any member of the city council wish to pull an item for separate discussion regarding the consent calendar? And if not, I'll make a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.10 of the consent calendar. May I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by myself and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Guillen. City Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Mayor of the Council and Successor Agency Chavez.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Guillen. And Mayor de la Rosa.
Yes.
Motion passes 401.
Now let's move on to discussion item. Item 12.1. City Manager, will you please announce the discussion?
Yes, thanks again, Mayor De La Rosa. It's staff's recommendation that the council review the commission appointments and by motion remove commissioners and or make appointments to any posted vacancies. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any updates? Seems like none. And if not, we'll move over to item 12.2. City Manager, will you please announce the discussion item?
Thanks again, Mayor De La Rosa. This item was requested by council at the last meeting, last council meeting. It's a project update on the complete streets improvements that are currently being funded by ATP Cycle 5. It's a long-term project that's been contemplated for almost a decade, with actual improvements currently being made that have caused some challenges and some concern for residents and other stakeholders in the city. So our Public Works Director, Bernie Iniguez, will start off the presentation, and Doug Minash, our city engineer, is here as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. O'Kelly. Good evening, honorable mayor and members of the council. For background, in 2008, Assembly Bill 1358, also known as the Complete Streets Act, was signed into law. In 2011, the act required that cities and counties update in their general plans. These agencies had to ensure that local roads and streets adequately accommodated the needs of all roadway users, this being bicyclists, pedestrians, transit riders, and motorists. In 2017, Metro adopted a complete streets policy. The policy required that all local jurisdictions within the county adopt a complete streets policy, an adopted city council resolution supporting complete streets, or have an adopted general plan consistent with the Complete Streets Act. As of 2017, failure to comply with Metro's Complete Streets policy would make an agency ineligible for Metro funding. In regard to funding, the City of Bell Gardens does utilize funds from various government agencies, including county, state, and federal, to design and construct public works improvements on the city's streets. These funding agencies place requirements on the city for the use of these funds. As discussed as an example, Metro did require all cities using their funds for roadway improvements to prepare, adopt, and implement a complete streets plan in order to apply for and continue the use of those grant funds. So what are complete streets? A complete street is a street designed to safely accommodate the needs of all users. And again, this includes pedestrians, bicyclists, transit riders, and motorists. A truly complete street accommodates all with safe and comfortable access to local destinations, and this is despite anyone's age, ability, or income. Each complete street is unique and has a different mix of street features based on the context. Therefore, a complete street can include a mix of different amenities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit-friendly street elements, which can include wider sidewalks, bike lanes, street furniture, high visibility crossings, curb extensions, roundabouts, parklets, wayfinding, and many other features. In 2016, the city received funds from Caltrans through their Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant, and this was to develop the city's citywide complete streets plan. The goal of the plan is to construct safety improvements for the benefit of pedestrians and cyclists, along with vehicular traffic. The plan provides a review of the existing street conditions for the city, and it also proposed improvements that would be accomplished through the plan's goals. In 2018 and 19, the city held 4 community workshops, released a bilingual survey for community feedback, and promoted the plan on the city's social media platforms. In February 2020, the City Council adopted the Complete Streets Plan for the City of Bell Gardens. This adopted plan has been available to the public through the city's website since June 28, 2022. Here before you is an exhibit from the plan, and it shows the heat map for collisions for all modes of travel, including pedestrian, bicycle, and automobile. In regard to those total collisions from 2014 to 17, there were 548 collisions, of which 74% were vehicle related, 14% were bicycle related, and 12% were pedestrian related. Due to the number of recommended improvements in the plan and the estimated cost for these improvements, the plan was divided into phases. After the plan's adoption, the city applied for Caltrans ATP Cycle 5 grant funds to implement Phase 1. In 2022, the city received approximately $6.5 million of ATP Cycle 5 grant funds from Caltrans to design and construct Phase 1. And these are Phase 1 of those recommendations from the plan. In accordance with ATP grant requirements, the city must conduct comprehensive before and after studies. These evaluations document vehicle speeds and volumes, bicycle and pedestrian counts, and collision history. Current analyses indicate that speeds on the majority of our residential streets exceed the 25-mile-per-hour limit. To measure the effectiveness of the safety improvements, follow-up data will be collected 6 months after the completion of phase 1 of the project. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to City Engineer Doug Benage to talk about the speed survey, talk about complete streets improvements in other local jurisdictions, and to give an update on ATP Cycle 5 improvements.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As you see here, these are the results from our initial survey prior to construction. And we target most of the residential streets, and per California Vehicle Code, a local residential street, if it's not posted, is 25 miles an hour. As you can see, the bulk of the streets are in excess or very close to 30 miles an hour or greater. So therefore, there is an issue in the local residential areas for this. Next. Read it, okay. Okay. When we developed the design plans for the project, we also know that these improvements are also done elsewhere in local jurisdictions. The city of West Covina has done the same median islands in the center of the street, along with, and then in the city of Bell, they've also done the restrictions, right turn out and no right turns in that we've done at Gauge Inspect. Next. And we also see in the city of Orange and the city of Long Beach, the same median islands at the intersections. ATP Cycle ATP Cycle 5 street improvement project included a whole bunch of improvements. They started with the reconstruction of sidewalks and driveways in certain areas, bulb outs, or what are called known as curb extensions, that when a residential street approaches a major arterial, that shortens the distance for pedestrians for crossing. The installation of speed humps on certain streets, installation of enhanced road markings that include street striping, green bicycle sharrows, and enhanced visibility crosswalks. We also did installation of raised medians with flashing stop signs to really highlight the stop sign at the intersections. And then we are also installing a high intensity activated crosswalk, otherwise known as a Hawk pedestrian signal at Gage and Ajax. Caltrans has reviewed these design improvements in compliance with the Complete Streets Plan. And then prior to construction, the city posted the information regarding the project on the city's calendar webpage. Phase 1 is currently under construction with anticipated completion spring of this year. Just to give a basis, our design staff got its initial design premise along with seeing other jurisdictions from the traffic engineering standpoint from FHWA, the Federal Highway Administration, which showed us the examples of how these things are to be installed and constructed. The next slide is the map of the streets affected by all the ATP Cycle 5 improvements. So it's a pretty good wide swath of the local residential streets. The next slide shows sidewalk improvements along with driveway improvements as we went through the streets to make sure everything was up to ADA compliance. Next slide is with forming and pouring of concrete bulb outs. And so up one is the corner of Moeller and Eastern at the liquor store and so forth. And then we also did them at some of the intersections near the high school. On the next slide. Next one, that's Garfield. Yes. And so here is the typical design element for the LED powered stop signs at the median islands at the local residential intersections. We got the big high visibility crosswalks. We also have the median islands and then the diverter striping of double yellows coming up to the median islands. The other aspect of the intersections that we're doing, we're painting red curbs on the 4 corners. California passed, I apologize, I don't remember the AB number, that became effective, I think, 2 years ago. That requires, you cannot park within 15 feet of a crosswalk on any leg of an intersection. So in order to make that more knowledgeable to the residents, we're going to paint all those corners red. As part once the project is, it'll be all painted red by the time the project is done. At the time, we also provided truck turning movements through the design process. We lay a template over a standard truck, make sure they can traverse the areas. It's typically going to be a school bus, one of the smaller fire engines, and so forth. So we did take into consideration how these things operate. This is a current photographs of the improved intersections with the striping and placing the crosswalks and the stops and bars with it, along with the flashing stop signs at the intersections. This is a video that'll show our city's boom truck traversing the intersection. And even with the parked car there, he was able to maneuver through the intersection. Here he comes in it from another direction. That was the left turn movement through the intersection, first video. I believe this is going to be a right turn movement through the intersection. This is our Hawk signal installation at Gage and Ajax, where we have two large median islands in the middle as pedestrian refuges for the being a larger arterial. The green stripes down the center for bicycles that traverse the intersection when the Hawk signal is activated. And then the pedestrians are on the east leg of the intersection for that. Now the Hawk signal is a flashing yellow beacon. Then it turns to a red signal to require the cars to stop at the intersection for the pedestrians to cross. And then it also eliminated the right turn into Ajax in both directions, but allows a right turn out when you're on Ajax. And here's photos of what the construction looks like now. We're in the process of our single subcontractors working on getting the poles installed along with coordinating the Edison service installation. So once the Edison service installation is finalized, we'll get the poles up from that standpoint. And it's our recommendation that the city council receive and file this report, and will entertain any questions.
Yeah, actually, Doug, before we
it's
make that recommendation, so the city also applied for ATP Cycle 6, and that would implement phase 2 of our plan. It includes the same elements as phase 1, with the only difference is a Hawk signal over at Gage and Spect. But just like you see at Ajax, it would be the same elements. So in 2024, the city received almost $3 million for these ATP Cycle 6 improvements. These phase 2 plans are currently being reviewed by Caltrans. If the plans are approved at the May CTC or California Transportation Commission meeting, then we are anticipating that construction of ATP Cycle 6 will begin in either late summer or early fall of 2026. Now with that, we make the recommendation that the city council receive and file the report and presentation, and Doug and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for such a thorough presentation, and I enjoyed seeing the diagrams and the specifications of the development. I think we've all seen how impactful this has been, especially with the feedback we've been receiving from the community and stakeholders, particularly those that I've seen on BG Uncensored, right? Many of these comments emphasize the difficulty when turning right, and I've seen someone post a photo of a truck being parked really close to the stop sign, right? Which in theory violates the daylighting law. But in regards to this issue, how does the timeline look for the city to start painting those curbs red to limit that that potential hazard when citizens are navigating those right-hand turns?
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's the red painting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, that would be 15 feet.
Correct, from the crosswalk.
Wow. Awesome. And again, I've seen on the page itself, I believe it's been a couple of stop signs that have been impacted by vehicles and bent over. Uh, when it comes to damages like that, would that be covered under city funds or through the ATP Cycle 5
By the contractor.
by the contract?
Yeah. It's his project until we sign off on it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if I can expand on that, after we accept the project as complete, we have also ordered 25 additional with the understanding that a lot of our commuters, once they get used to these new elements, they'll be more mindful. The whole purpose is for them to slow down and remember, okay, there's actually a feature here that I need to slow down for. So that is why we are placing an order for 25 under this Complete Streets ATP Cycle 5 grant.
And at this point in time, with these little islands, are they all complete at this point in time, or are there still more to be completed?
The islands that are out in the project now are the islands that'll be completed. Any new islands will show up in ATP Cycle 6.
Gotcha. And this is more of a history refresher. I know this initiated back in early 2020, but I did see that the city did request to. Well, initially they were supposed to be traffic circles, and there was an amendment, and which was approved, and this is the result we have. Just for some context, what was the reasoning or the the context behind that transition?
We felt as we were going through the design process that yes, the plan sort of designated traffic circles or mini traffic circles through there. We felt that would be more impactful from a parking standpoint and a turning radius standpoint of the larger vehicles through the intersection versus the option we chose now. And that's basically the justification for it.
And I did see in the diagram where a larger vehicle could maneuver safely through these now limited spaces. I did see some concerns from residents stating that fire trucks, emergency vehicles would have a difficult time navigating through these streets in time of an emergency. Just to clarify, what specifications were these developments done in to ensure that public safety is not hindered?
Well, a couple of things. The standard travel lane that Caltrans has provided for all design engineers is basically 12 feet between stripes or between the stripe and the parking lane, which is typically 8 feet on the street. So there's basically 12 feet of travel lane, which is basically what you see on the freeways. It's a 12-foot lane. All vehicles, unless it's a wide load, are less than 12 feet. They're about 9 feet wide. So there's 1.5 feet of space in the 12-foot lane on each side of the vehicle. If you watch the driving public, most driving public has a very hard time with the right side depth perception. So they hug the center of the roadway. If you just pay attention and watch it, you'll see it everywhere. But you still have the 12 feet travel lane to travel in. We've maintained that 12 feet through the intersection. And our turning movement analysis and the way the trucks move with the turning movement analysis, the front end swings wider, the back end swings wider, they still can make that turn. We did it graphically through AutoCAD in the design phase, and then we showed it with our boom truck, which is very close to the size of the local fire truck through the intersection. So we're very confident that from a fire truck standpoint, that driver is by title is called the engineer who drives the fire truck, who also operates the fire truck. He should have the skill sets in order to navigate that through all sorts of minimum lane restrictions as required from that standpoint.
And if I could add for context, pardon me, the image from the city of Bell, they allow 12 feet. Ours are allowing 18 feet. So ours is wider than some of the features that our neighboring cities are implementing.
To continue on this topic, this wouldn't apply for the construction or on the Ajax and Gage, right? Since it's a one-way, it wouldn't apply.
It would still require minimum 12 feet, but our design allowed 18 feet.
No, but I mean, since it's a one-way like you can only come out through Ajax to Gage.
Correct.
No emergency vehicles are able to go in, right? Should an emergency arise.
Depending on which direction the driver is coming from. If he's coming westbound, They couldn't make the right turn if there's nobody in the lane to go southbound on Ajax and vice versa. They're coming eastbound. They couldn't make the right, the left turn into Ajax, to go southbound Ajax if they're going westbound on Gage and vice versa in the other direction.
Okay.
Now, emergency vehicles
Right.
basically have the right of way to go just about it.
Yeah, once the project is done, if we can provide the new design just to the first responders so they can take it into account and study in case they have to respond to these emergencies and our residents wouldn't be affected.
No problem.
No, definitely. And I do want to say, as part of this effort, we're also doing the Safer Streets for All, actually. We have a meeting actually on Wednesday, the 25th, and the fire department is a stakeholder along with our police department. They'll be invited to that meeting just as they were invited to the workshops when this plan was initially created.
This Wednesday?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I know you guys showed the video of the truck going through. I'm concerned about school buses, just because of the way that they turn. Have we had any school bus go through there turning either right or left? And has there been any issues?
Brand new. I think after that, I've not heard anything since then.
So I will say, I do live close to like a bus stop, and I saw a bus actually have to kind of reroute a little bit, go back, and the bus was already loaded with students. So I share that concern, and also with the trolley, kind of saw that as well.
Well, I think once we get the red curbs painted and the residents know not to park there, the buses shouldn't have an issue.
Like a timeline upon when the red curbs will be fully painted?
Should be done by the end of this week,
Okay.
if not sooner.
And then to expand on that, I have been keeping up with Parking Company of America, our operator for the trolley and dial ride. They have not reported any issues whatsoever.
Thank you so much for this presentation, and thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Guillen for bringing this up. This is something that has been a big discussion for the community. I think I've gotten a couple voicemails threatening to sue the city for us doing this. I mean, I think at one point they had a picture of all of us. I think might even the city manager, staff, mechanic, and auto body shops, like as if we were the Sopranos or something, organizing a scheme of like tire, business, and where someone's getting kickbacks and stuff. And it's like, oh my goodness. To see all of this, some of it is amusing though. Some of it, the people got creative with their AI, posting different things on these center medians. I think that the Complete Streets project is a good project. I think that it's a really good project with good intentions. I think traffic calming devices such as, putting the stop, ensuring, I'm also seeing the crosswalks being repainted. I think that's huge. I think it's important. I believe that, and it's earlier, I was having lunch at Tacos El Jalisciense, got myself 4 tacos de asada, and I don't know why I shared that. So I'm there and I'm talking with the owner. And they brought up this streets thing and the Complete Streets. And one thing that we were having a conversation about is how a lot of parents, because right there on Jabonería and Clara, there's a crossing guard, right? And we noticed that, for a city like ours, a lot of folks like to say, hey, we rely on cars, we don't need bike lanes, we don't need, folks don't walk to places, they don't walk to work. I'd like to make an argument and say that, no, we have a lot of schools and a lot of parents walk their kids to school, right? As you get off, even right here on Garfield, right? We have a Garfield Elementary, right? You show up around 2 or 3 and there's kids flowing, and getting out to, get picked up by their parents. Some parents walk with them to school. I was one of those childs that my mom would walk with me to the bus stop, and at BGI when I used to go to Bandini. And then I used to walk to BGI when I was in BGI. Same thing with the high school. I would get dropped off at an alley on Gage and Jabonería, and then I would walk across 2 streets to get to the high school. Right. So, and some of these streets are, it was Gage is a big street and a lot of folks are driving fast. So I think that it's necessary. I think a lot of parents walk their kids to school. Some kids walk by themselves. I think that this is essential. We have an abundance of cars, here in the city. And I'm just happy to see a project like this taking place. It's going to take some time to get used to, but I think it's for the greater good. I'd wish we could have a crossing guard at every intersection and everybody can be safe walking. But I think something like this is just another mechanism that we could use to address, the speed limits. And folks drive like it's a freeway. And folks are driving up and down Aguanería like it's, the 710 freeway, and it's out of control. I've seen it firsthand, right? And folks get reckless sometimes, and just, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we had a big crash outside in front of City Hall right here, and that was another thing. But I mean, people, it's crazy times, and especially when folks get behind the wheel. So, a couple of questions. I do want to get to some questions. One of them being speed humps that were identified. I've seen a lot of the Hawk signal. I've heard of that, but I don't know if any sections have already been identified with speed humps through this phase.
We do have new speed humps going, I think, on Ira between Loveland and Loveland and Florence. I think there's one more that I apologize that escapes.
No worries.
Yes, but we can get you that information.
So it's on Ira?
Yeah, on Ira and also on Ajax, between Florence and Lubec. So those are already installed and striped.
Ajax, Florence. Okay, yeah. No, this is. I mean, I know Ajax is one of those, which is right next to Eastern, and folks sometimes try to get through around, especially because we have a lot of work being done right now on Eastern. So that's another one. The Hawk signal, on Gage and Ajax, and potentially, hopefully in the future on Spec and Gage. Why should a city pursue doing like something like a Hawk signal instead of just putting a regular traffic light?
Hawk signal will probably be during the morning school rush and the afternoon school rush. If you put a traffic signal there, it doesn't meet warrants. Hawk signal meets the pedestrian requirements to have a productive crossing, but when you do evaluate for a traffic signal, there's the MUTCD traffic warrants that have got to be met, which looks at accidents, traffic volumes, geometry of the intersection. The key to a traffic signal is you basically have right-of-way violations in all and traffic volumes that are similar or comparable in all directions. Ajax won't have that, just by the very nature of the type of street that is. So whenever, from that standpoint, it doesn't meet the warrants. That's why we didn't do it.
Got it.
And
No,
if I can expand on that too, the Hawk signal is an on-demand traffic safety feature. Whereas if we were to install a traffic signal, you're gonna go through a cycle. And keep in mind, the plan is supposed to accommodate all modes of travel, including motorists. So we were trying to get the best of both worlds. That was a location on the heat map that was identified for being collision prone. By restricting the right turn, again, traffic flow keeps going. And then by making it on demand, it was another feature that traffic engineers look at.
Thank you for that clarification. Can you, and what I'm going to piggyback off of one of the things that you just mentioned, Director Iniguez, and I know you mentioned for the mortars, right? I think that's part of the complete streets. And one of the feedback that we've gotten, I think all of us as council, has been, how is this benefiting the drivers, right? I think that's been a big concern where, the city's trying to go for folks that are walking and riding bikes, but how is this, what did they say? Someone said, why do the drivers have to get punished now and stuff? So what's sort of a response to that? And how does this project address, that this is also for the motorists?
Again, it was a compromise in that's a location that was identified as being a hotspot. So again, in order to make traffic flow conducive, by making it on demand only, and it does restrict right turn only. So again, in the theoretical perspective, you would reduce the amount of service calls from first responders due to the reduction of traffic collisions, while at the same time, not putting a hard stop there through a cycle on a traffic signal. So that's how it benefits the motorists. It allows the motorists to keep conducting as usual with a minimal impact, only to be paused when there are those kids that need to go to school. The safe routes to school element comes in. So in that mindset, that's this is how it benefited the commuters. But again, not making it a hard signal where you have to stop no matter what, whether or not there are pedestrians.
And Councilmember, I think if you look at the information that Doug and Bernie have presented as far as, it's not meant to be a punishment for the commuters, but the speeds that were actually being traveled were significantly higher than the posted speeds. Presumably, if everybody was traveling the speeds that are required, 25 or below, and obeying all of the signs as they were, there would maybe not be 548 collisions during that 3-year period, of which 142 of them were people on bicycles or walking. So it's not a small number. It's 142 people over that 3-year period of time that were either on a bicycle or walking, them versus a vehicle, which normally you don't win. So I think that would be my counter to it, is it's not meant as a punishment. It's just to create conditions that make it more realistic for drivers to follow the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit and obey the traffic signs so that this many people don't get hit.
No, thank you for that, Director Iniguez, and also City Manager O'Kelly. I think again, and I've had my conversation with the mayor about this. How do you not see the stop sign in the center? How do you not see the center median? Unless you're on your phone or you're excessively going really fast, like you just can't miss that. And the people that have hit it, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, well, the project wasn't done yet, right? Or maybe that there was a car on the right side and that's why they couldn't turn. Or, now that the project is done, I hope that, this gets more folks, focused on the road. I wanted to ask, how many phases are there in this project? Because I know we just did phase 1. We're trying to get phase 2. And then I know the projected start date for phase 2 would be fall 2026. Do we have an idea when that phase would be completed? And then if so on, how many more phases are needed?
There's only 2 phases. So the next one's coming right up. We are, to help lessons learned from this project going into ATP cycle 6, we are going to write in the specifications that when they come to an intersection or a group of intersections, probably within a 2-week period, we construct the medians, put the signs, striping, curb paintings. Everything's done within a 2-week time frame versus how we stretched it out. We try to rein it. We don't specify methods in our specifications because they're never dictating what the contractor's got to do. But we're giving them a time frame with a little more clarity in order not to impact the neighborhood as much as possible, or drag things out as long as they've gone so far.
If I can expand, so staff is looking at ATP Cycle 8. That's the COFR project that's out now. Because once we finish the Safer Streets for All element that is going to upgrade our complete streets plan, that may call for new improvements. So again, on Wednesday we have the stakeholder meeting, and then at 7 p.m. at Ross Hall we actually have an open house for the community to come and discuss that plan so that the community can see what else the city needs to do. So the Safer Streets for All enhancement is to conform to new federal guidelines. So potentially there can be a phase 3 if new safety elements are identified.
Sounds good. It's kind of full circle because prior to the pandemic, before I was on the dais, I remember going to, I think it was Ford Park, before the aquatic center was built, and there was the little charts, and they had planned, such a project. Right? It was in Ross Hall, as well, and it was good to see it now here into fruition. Through this, is the crosswalks repainting is that part of the cycle, upgrade?
Within our project limits, yes.
Got it. Because I've driven around and I see that some areas have like little lines and it's like some just chalk. And then I think the next day they'll go and
They're going to come back and paint them out.
Correct. It's what's called continental crosswalks. So this is for enhanced visibility. It's the white stripes that follow the crosswalk. So that's what's going to be installed. White and then yellow bicycle zones.
Yeah, I just saw those on Ira and on Park Lane and Garfield. Yeah, those are nice. Finally, just to make sure, and I want to piggyback off of what the mayor had asked in regards to the traffic circles. So initially the intent was to do the traffic circles for the sake that we were going to save parking spots, but then we're still going to have to, we now this daylighting law happened and now we're still going to end up with the same result, which is we're going to lose parking spots. Okay. Well, that was for another intent, right? All right. I think for me, I think that wraps up all my questions. Again, I appreciate this information, this update. Thank you to all the incredible work that was done. Again, for the folks, that I know that have been mentioning this and have said that we're giving kickbacks to everybody in town that is, it's like, oh my goodness. And again, and I've been on this dais for, I think now 6 years. And, I think, yeah, we're trying to do what's the best for the community, right? I think of, again, I take it back to my own sake, and I think all of us at one point when, we walked to school, we got on the bus we got on the trolley, right? We did that video with Eric, and I mean, I think that, you drive around in the trolley and people are getting up and on throughout the city. And, this is for the greater good for the community. So again, I appreciate all this that's being done. And for the drivers that are watching, just, focus and slow down because the data says there it's some folks are driving out of control. Anyways, thank you everybody.
Thank you so much. And yeah, to Jorge's, to Councilmember Chavez's point, growing up and going to BJHS, there was this particular intersection, Foster Bridge and Silva Street. It's a street that curves diagonally down south, and that was particularly difficult as a pedestrian to cross, just because traffic was coming in beyond the speed limit, and my sister and I would always have to watch out and cross carefully. My parents would always warn us, like, "Hey, mijo, con cuidado cuando crucen por allí," or sometimes we just have to walk a little bit more to make sure we're safe. But over the years, I saw that there was an addition, right, of more of pedestrian space in that intersection to ensure that pedestrians can cross safely and the traffic could flow a little bit more prudently. I guess to conclude my questions, I had multiple conversations with residents regarding these changes, and one of these residents was very passionate about removing these implementations. And given that this is a project that was funded through ATP Cycle 5, theoretically, what would that process look like in theory?
In theory, since we're using somebody else's money to pay for the construction, they usually tie us at least 5 to 7 years. They got to stay in place, unless we'd have to give the money back and the city would have to pay to take them out.
And aside from that, as was mentioned in the beginning, we're required to do these improvements in order to keep getting the money from the granting agencies. So not only would we have to give money back, there's a potential to not be able to get future money. And this is what addresses the potholes. We don't stay up, talked about slurry seal on the agenda, and the list goes on and on. We are a little bit ahead, so the other agencies also have to do this. So we're just fortunate to get $6 million, $3 million, $9 million to get ahead of it and do these ATP complete streets improvements. But these are gonna be done for all jurisdictions that want to keep going after the metro money. So they're not just germane to Bell Gardens. We're gonna start seeing it with our neighbors as well. We're the guinea pig. We're putting ourselves out there.
Thank you so much for the thorough response, and it goes back into Mr. O'Kelly's report, right? 20 blocks are expected to receive that improvement, and yeah, again, thank you so much for the presentation. I enjoyed seeing the numbers, the statistics, the reports even, right, of these incidents, which again go hand in hand with these solutions. And again, thank you so much. With that said, if there are no more questions or comments, we have one more comment from Mayor Pro Tem Guillen.
I do want to say thank you. I know I've asked over time questions, but it's just, to gain more education on it. I do want to ask regarding you mentioned on your report, there's going to be a before and after traffic study 6 months after the completion. More or less, do we have a projected of when that update will be provided to us?
Probably in the fall.
Fall of this year?
Fall of this year.
Okay.
Because we're looking right now, we're in March. We'll probably finish here mid-April.
Mhm.
Bring it to council for notice of completion, and from that day, we go 6 months.
Okay.
So it's gonna be, late fall.
Okay.
So
And-
Doug, just for Mayor Pro Tem's benefit, We're measuring 6 months of actual activity and then reporting on it, or the requirement is the report's done within 6 months. I only ask because it might push it off another 60 days or something if we're measuring 6 months.
In 6 months, we'll then do another, after the project's notice of completion is filed, in 6 months' time, we'll go back out and do the same survey we did prior to construction.
And that would be solely for phase one?
Yes.
Okay. And then,
So Mayor Pro Tem, I think the reporting back that we could potentially do the council might be another 30 or 60 days after that 6 month measurement. Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
okay. And then, I don't think we spoke about this, but the widening of the street, can we provide a little more explanation on that? For instance, on, it's Lubeck and Easter, the,
Oh, we put a bulb out at Lubeck and Eastern, going northbound on Eastern at Lubeck. There was 3 lanes there. It was a dedicated right turn lane, because Eastern is a major arterial. The goal was try to shorten the walking distance across Eastern for the residents at that intersection. That was the purpose for it. So basically, you have to merge prior to the intersection, then make your right turn.
are there going to be any signages indicating that a little before? Okay.
Yeah, we got signs and arrows to go
Okay.
in.
And will that be the only place where that was? I haven't seen it elsewhere on any other.
That was a unique intersection, so that's probably the only place. Most of the other bulb outs that we have done have maintained the width of Eastern Avenue and also Garfield Avenue. Primarily like at Gulf, at Muller, both at Eastern and Garfield, and I think at Quinn at Eastern, at Quinn and Garfield also.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
If I can, Mayor. Yeah, I think just for that bulb out, because I remember that was one of the biggest things where people are confused. They're going north on Eastern and they want to turn right on Lubeck. And they're so used to just driving straight and then making a right, but now they get in and then they don't realize that that's now at Bulb. So they have to now merge again to the left and, so
Warning for that effect.
what I would recommend, and I don't know if this is something that it's already being done. I think I might have seen it in other cities, but in that little area that kind of ends, maybe painting it a color or something that just says like bus stop. I think that, I don't know if that, and I know that's a trolley stop. I don't know if it's an official metro stop.
We're moving the trolley about 100 feet south to allow the trolley to have more access to merge back into traffic.
Is that also a metro stop for like Big LA Metro? No, it's not one of the lines.
No, it's just a city
It's just a
trolley.
trolley.
And to clarify, because I think Doug alluded to it, that there are gonna be the white arrows, the advance warning, along with the signage telling you that the lane is gonna end. I'm hoping by the end of this week, those will be up, along with moving our trolley stop 100 feet south, so that gives a trolley more time to maneuver their turn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. With that said, I would like to make a motion to receive and file this item. May I have a second? City Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the Council and Successor Agency Chavez.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Guillen, and Mayor De La Rosa.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. We will now move over to council member comments.
I'll go first. I had a couple of questions. One of them was in regards to Public Works, actually. It's for the T intersection on Eastern and Garfield. I don't know if that's something that, if we could just touch bases really quick. I'm just curious to see how that timeline looking like for that project.
Yeah, we completed the acquisition for the property. We've actually already conducted the pre-construction meeting. We've released the notice to proceed. Now keep in mind, it involves traffic signal equipment, so that's a long lead time item, anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And I should be able to have a tighter estimate as when we're actually gonna get started. But as we've seen with the Complete Streets project, we just don't want to get too far ahead while we're waiting for the amenity, the signal. But yeah, that's queued up and it's gonna take care of some pavement as well. So that's gonna complete. We did Eastern and it's great. Now it's time to do a little piece of Garfield so that it butts up with the better condition road that we have.
Yeah, certainly. That's an area that I traffic consistently, and I've always wondered why it just cuts off. I think we've done like slurry seals in the past on Garfield, but for some reason it just cuts off on the end there. But I'm glad to see that that project's also being done. I'm really curious about the Safer Streets for All engagement that's going to be done this week. I'd love to partake and see if there's any opportunity for engagement on that. The other thing I wanted to ask was in regards to our trolley and our dial-a-ride service that we offer to our residents. I think I might have shared already with our city manager, but I've gotten a couple of concerns and just thoughts brought forward from our seniors and elderly in regards to the trolley or the dial-a-ride not allowing little shopping, like little carts to get onto the vehicles. I don't know if that's already, if maybe we can bring that forward, or how we can go about communicating with our trolley and our dial-a-ride providers, just to make sure that they're allowed to get on to use that sort of that transportation, right? I think from what has been shared is they allow folks to get on, but for example, if they're on they have a cart, or remember, I think Mayor De La Rosa and I, when we were shooting the video of the trolley, they told us that they said, "Hey, the trolley won't let me get on with my cart." I think we might have that on clip. And the resident also had she had something in her arm, and she was clearly like on medication or something. So I mean, but she was coming from Ross and Marshalls. So if there's any engagement about that.
Yeah, we have been in discussions with Parking Company of America. These are small paratransit buses as you board it. So what happens is when everybody gets on with a cart, not a walker, because for ADA you're allowed to, but when you start getting in with carts, it can become dangerous, right? If the bus has to maneuver. So it's the safety factor and also the convenience. We've gotten complaints from other riders that, so and so is getting on with so many things. But in discussions with Parking Company of America, they've indicated it may be possible, but they would have to place these carts where the wheelchairs would go. So if someone boards with a wheelchair, unfortunately, the person with the push cart would have to vacate that area. But these are discussions that we can keep having with Parking Company of America to see how many times, the situation arises where we have a combination of an actual disabled individual with a wheelchair and someone wanting to get on with grocery push carts to see what can be the better protocol. But yeah, it's a safety and convenience factor for all riders at this point. So we do have that limitation that you can get in with bags, unless if you're disabled, then you can get in with a walker or a wheelchair, obviously.
Understood. I don't know the process that Metro or these other big, I know you mentioned that the smaller trolleys have different systems, but I think that we should definitely prioritize this as a council. And I don't know to what extent our contract with PCA goes into the specifics in regards to carts of sorts, but I know that this has been something where it's been documented. And every time I go to the senior center, I think it's almost on a weekly basis, the seniors remind me about it, that there's 2 or 3 seniors that consistently remind me about just the difficulty it is navigating our city, or when they're going to go grocery shopping, or when they're going to go to Ross and Marshalls, and that's their sole source of transportation around the city. One of the biggest things that us as a council we've advocated for has been, not the use or an alternative use than just using your car. And, we've gone out and we use the trolley, and, I just got myself a scooter to get around the city, and I'm going to prioritize that. Literally, it's in my car right now. The irony, right? It's in my car, right? But I'm gonna use it because I just bought it today. So, anyways, I got a really good deal for it too. Shout out to the USC students that sold it. Anyways, so yes, let's continue prioritizing that. Final thing I want to mention is in regards to fireworks. I know I was here, but I wasn't here present per se in the council meeting. And I know that there was a long discussion, but I would want to request not necessarily a discussion item, but more so an ordinance to be brought forward. I think there was a big discussion about it. I would say missed probably a decent chunk of it last meeting, but I would request that the ordinance be brought forward, and potentially a conversation about a fireworks show to be also had for the city of Bell Gardens. I'd say that if we could have that for the next meeting, I think that within this next meeting, I think there's gonna be 2 to 3 weeks, give or take. We're not gonna have another one consistent. So I think there's only 5 council meetings left before July. So I would want to get on, bring this forward and see if we can have that ordinance brought forward. Yes, I was about to ask that.
Yeah, so council member, I think based on our timeline, we already had direction to bring back an item to talk some more about this, about potentially crafting an ordinance at the next council meeting. I'm trying to recall our timeline, I think had passed from the perspective of noticing a public hearing, having it brought for first reading, second reading, and having that ordinance go into effect 30 days later, with there being any time for, at least from the nonprofit perspective, in establishing I'm talking slow as I look at Manny Acosta, and he's pulling up the time frame, I think. I believe that we had reached our cutoff already at the last discussion. It was already right on the edge there. But I'll let Mr. Acosta speak to that. And then as far as the fireworks show, the only issue there, the fireworks show is separate from the fireworks ordinance. So the city could always have a fireworks show based on the existing ordinance. It just doesn't allow for the use of safe and sane fireworks for anybody else. We had been talking with a couple fireworks show producers. I think I'll look to Liz. Is there still any opportunity, do you think, as far as a fireworks show from the 2 providers, and also enough time to cancel with the laser light vendor as well?
Yes, Mr. O'Kelly, thank you. As of 2 weeks ago, when I last spoke with the 2 firework companies, our date was still available. I'd have to do some follow-up calls with them to just ensure that they hadn't given the date away. Our show, our Independence Day celebration, is set for July 2nd. We've already confirmed bands and our stage and sound and lighting. So we're hard on that date. But as of a couple weeks ago, we did have confirmation that they were able to provide some sort of a fireworks show on that date. I can follow up again and see if it's still available.
So we can check that date and then come back and our plan was to report that. I don't think that was our plan, but we can include that as part of the item that we're bringing at the next council meeting, whether that date's even available at this point. Obviously it leaves room for future fireworks show. I mean, you always have the option for future fireworks show, whether it be for Independence Day or otherwise. And then Manny, do you have the time frame?
Oh, at the last city council meeting, we had the ordinance adoption process. So the initial, I guess for the official review would be April 13th. And then that will be the first reading. The second reading, hopefully this is the right presentation. I just looked it up really quick. But the ordinance would have to be in effect. Second reading on April 27th, and then the ordinance will be in effect May 27th. That's from the past. It would have been 2 more weeks.
Add 2 to 3 weeks to that. Would put us at June 17.
Mhm.
So it did not seem practical, at least from the perspective of the nonprofits having fireworks up and running. That time frame didn't seem to be practical, but I suppose it'd be practical for people, even if they're not buying or selling them in Bell Gardens, potentially to start using them after the 17th.
Correct. So not for the sale of the actual fireworks posts, but effectively you can be firing out fireworks without having to purchase them here.
So I think, I guess it's direction from a council member. I just let the whole council know for us to prepare an ordinance, have it ready for the next meeting, as opposed to what we were bringing Just from a priority perspective, I think, as I said it 2 weeks ago, it has to be the priority for us to get that done. It can't be the Attorney General issue. It can't be the ballot measure. It can't be the water cell. We've got to focus everything on this. And so what I think what I would ask is we had a full council discussion and that wasn't the direction. If the direction would be to bring an ordinance, I think, would we even have time to have that post for a public hearing?
We also needed a noticing requirement because it's not an urgency ordinance, so.
Correct, but we have by Thursday, I believe it would have to be done by this Thursday. The problem is that we have conflicting direction now because we do have the pending direction that was given by the council at the last meeting to bring back this item. So you would have two competing items for the next council meeting.
Are we able to remove one if that were to ask?
Yes.
Can I get clarification? One of the things the city manager mentioned was 2 to 3 weeks difference. I'm curious about that.
Sure. The time frame that Mr. Carlson was referencing was as of the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. So if that would have been the timeline had we got direction for an ordinance 2 weeks ago. So if we have direction 2 weeks later, you would just add 2 weeks to the timeline.
What was the direction 2 weeks ago?
The direction 2 weeks ago was to bring back an item that brought in the fire department, the TNT fireworks, and others, specifically the bomb squad. I think they're part of LA County Fire.
The survey.
The survey that we have up and running right now, basically to just solidify more of the information that would
And-
go into crafting the ordinance.
The information also regarding the fundraising the amounts for the prior permits back in 2019. So there were multiple directives that were given for a report back.
So that's already all in the works, and that's going to come back to us next week, next time we meet.
At the next meeting.
Correct.
And then at that meeting, would it be theoretically possible that we take that item, and it seems to be mostly informational, and then have on top of that another discussion item with the actual first reading of the ordinance? That's a question to legal.
I think if you work through the timeline on it, so if we come back at the next meeting, which is April 13th, and we don't have anything noticed at that point, I believe we would not be able to bring the first reading on the 27th. We would have to bring the first reading on the May 11th meeting. And the 25th is Memorial Day. Second reading would be June 8th. It wouldn't go into effect until July 8th at that point.
So due to the noticing requirement, we can't bring the first reading of the ordinance for April 13th.
No, for that one, we do have enough time, but it's just the content of what exactly the ordinance would say, because the directive, I believe, was do the study in order to provide direction on what the ordinance would look like. So we don't have that information yet. That was going to be presented at the next meeting, if that's correct, City Manager?
Yes. So really the crafting of the ordinance at the way that the order was directed at the last council meeting would generally preclude the reality of the ordinance being in place and operational in time for nonprofits, let's say, to set up stands and to make money from that, but potentially could be available for people that bought fireworks somewhere else to at least be able to use them in the city.
Yeah, the only reason I'm very persistent about that April 13th first reading deadline was because I didn't want to go back, assuming that we would have given that direction at the last meeting, right? And I think, again, to my point at the end of that council meeting, at the end of that discussion where I sort of, and again, my apologies, and I understand, which is where we are now, but that's why I'm sort of bringing that April 13th date forward to see how it would all, land. To legal's point, right? If the whole intention was to use the bomb squad, the nonprofits, the survey, information back to then formulate the ordinance, we theoretically aren't going to bring that ordinance back until the 27th, which would be the first reading. Would we even still be on the timeline to get it done?
Not for the nonprofits, definitely. And if we brought an ordinance on the 27th for first reading, second reading May 11th, it goes into effect June 11th. You could potentially, I mean, people could, if it was adopted at that point, people could use Safe and Sane fireworks in Bell Gardens. For practical purposes, probably difficult for a nonprofit, let's say, to set up a stand.
Got it. All right. Yeah, that concludes my comments on. Thank you.
I think, Councilman, if I could ask for clarity, though. So
we'll keep the direction that was given in the previous meeting with bringing in the bomb squad, the nonprofits, the bomb squad, nonprofits. What were the other groups? The survey results. Yes, and the information for how much funds the nonprofits generated. I would request that by next year's 4th of July, we have an ordinance ready to go in place. We allow Safe and Sane fireworks to be sold here in the city, and we also have a fireworks show. That would be my request for next year's 4th of July between now and 2027.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Chavez. Up next, Councilwoman Sanchez.
I want to go ahead and congratulate and recognize one of our residents, Amy Pineda. She was recognized last Friday as Woman of the Year by Assembly Member Blanca Pacheco. It was nice to see her family there receive the award and the recognition. She thanks council as well on her behalf. I'm sharing that with you guys, and just thank you to staff for all the hard work.
Mayor Pro Tem Guillen.
Thank you, staff, for all your hard work. And the lady that received the proclamation, if we can reach out to, it was One Legacy, right? She requested that if we can include them in community events, if they could have an info booth, please. And I would also like to direct staff to take a proactive action and a uniform approach on the canopies. There have been considerable residents that have reached out, considering the ordinances that we already have in place. And I think it would be ideal for our housing committee, which is Mayor and Councilmember Chavez, to have those conversations with staff. And I would like to follow up on my previous request with the posting of the cannabis income financials that we receive on the website. I do not see that.
Manny, can we have that up by the end of this week? Thank you.
That would conclude my comment.
Sorry, one last thing, Mayor. Can I circle back to my request to hold an ad hoc meeting for the Aquatic Center? I do want to revisit, the usage of it and whether we're going to have it open 12 months out of the year. Just financially, I want to take a look at that.
Mayor, if I may, I forgot to mention one more thing. If I can, and this is more so towards, I guess, our police department and in our code enforcement per se, similar on the note to the canopies, but it's been a couple residents have brought forward, and I think I might have shared this with Mr. Acosta, with the trailers. Some cars park their vehicle and then they park the trailer attached to that vehicle, right? Or it could be like a jet ski, or it could be just bulky items that they pick up. So what I would ask is that if we can be more strict on a lot of that, because some residents, in fact, there was one resident who lives on Adamson and decided to take me on a walk around the whole block, and she pointed out three different of these trailers that take up 2-3 parking spots at once. So that, and then also the recreational vehicles, I believe they're sort of on the books, right? But I would ask this for more strict enforcement on those. Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez, so I had a meeting with our city manager, and one of the things that we have noticed is an increase in the RVs coming in from the city of LA or other places. So one of the things that we started putting a task force together with our community service officers. So I'm hoping that working with code enforcement, we're going to be able to kind of reduce some of those RVs coming into the city. The second part to your question is going to be, or your request is, yeah, we're definitely, there is sort of kind of like under the vehicle code, we're looking into it. They're allowed to park there, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably get back to you with additional information on how we're going to be able to tackle that.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I would like to thank staff, my colleagues, the legal team, for such a productive meeting. Other than that, I received a request from a resident requesting a speed bump or a study at 5900th block of Agra Street. So if that's something they're interested in. How can we navigate that process? Yeah.
If we just have their contact information, Mayor, we can talk with them just to make sure the street's not prohibitive due to the mile-per-hour limit that exists, and then just give them the information and the application and help them through that.
Thank you so much. Other than that, if there's no more questions or objections by the members of the City Council, I will now adjourn the City Council Successor Agency Joint Meeting at 8:49 p.m. Thank you.